Our movie begins on the island of Sicily with the Mafia boss, Torselli, who is known as one of the biggest Mafia leaders in the world. We see Torselli sitting with two men trying to persuade him to help them with a human trafficking deal, but he refuses because his family doesn't deal in human trafficking. He leaves them and walks away, then goes to his son, Massimo, who is sitting and watching a beautiful girl on the beach. His father sees him and warns him about women, saying that all great men have met their end because of a woman, and tells him that the time has come to stop thinking about women and focus on his work, as he will be the leader after him. Suddenly, Torselli is shot from behind, the bullet passing through his body and injuring Massimo. Torselli dies, and Massimo is saved at the last moment to take over the family affairs. 5 years pass, and we see Massimo holding a meeting with those in charge of his family's investments in America, discovering that they intend to withdraw their investments from the company after realizing that his family deals in weapons and drugs. Massimo gets angry, calls his men, and informs everyone that his annual profits will increase by 10%, and that they will stay with the company against their will. He hands each one a file containing their scandals, threatening to expose them if they think of leaving. Afterward, Massimo heads to the airport and boards his private jet with his assistant, Mario, who informs him that someone has seized his cocaine shipment. Massimo is furious, feeling that ever since his father's death, gangs have been treating them disrespectfully, and he tells Mario that he will handle it. Meanwhile, we see a beautiful girl named Laura, who suffers from loneliness despite her boyfriend, Martin, being in her life. As his presence feels absent, he constantly ignores her and is uninterested in her. Laura travels with Martin and his friends to celebrate her 29th birthday. Martin organizes a big celebration for her, singing to her drunkenly, and the waiter brings down her favorite drink. She assumes it was from Martin and is happy that he finally remembered what she likes, but Martin shocks her by saying he wasn't the one who sent the drink. Laura feels watched, and when she goes to the bathroom, she is surprised to see Massimo there, mockingly asking if she liked the drink. She doesn't respond and returns to her friends, frightened. The next day, Laura is sitting with her friend by the pool. Martin arrives, and Laura asks him where he was, to which he replies that he went out with his friends, and didn't want to wake her to avoid bothering her. She gets upset and says he doesn't care about her, even on her birthday. Upset that he didn't spend time with her, she pushes him into the pool and leaves. Laura walks the city streets alone at night, saddened by Martin's constant neglect. Suddenly, a black car appears before her, and a man grabs her from behind and takes her away. Laura wakes up the next day to find herself in a large bedroom. She leaves the room looking for help and then sees the same man from her birthday, Massimo. She is angry and asks why he kidnapped her, and Massimo tells her about the day of his father's death 5 years ago. He explains that he saw her while unconscious that day, and since then, he has been in love with her and searched everywhere, until he saw her by chance at the airport. At that moment, he decided to kidnap her to make her his forever. Laura gets angry and tells him she's not an object he can own, that she's a person with her own life, a boyfriend, and friends, and that she won't give in to him easily. Massimo laughs, gives her a file, and asks her to open it. Laura opens the file and cries when she sees her boyfriend Martin cheating with other women. Massimo continues, telling her he won't do anything against her will, and will give her 65 days to fall in love with him. If she doesn't feel any attraction to him by the end, he will let her return to her life and try to forget her. At that moment, Mario arrives and informs Massimo that the shipment has arrived. Massimo orders one of his men to take Laura back to her room and heads to the basement. There, he finds a man named Alfredo, his hands tied, with signs of beating and torture on his face. Massimo tells him he disgraced the family by starting his own human trafficking business. Alfredo insults him, saying the family died with his father and that Massimo is worthless. Furious, Massimo kills him. Later, Laura takes a shower and decides to attempt an escape from Massimo. She sneaks out to the garden, only to see him standing with his men, preparing to bury Alfredo's body. Terrified, she faints. When she wakes up, she finds herself back in her room, with Massimo beside her, explaining that Alfredo deserved to die because he dealt in human trafficking. He apologizes for her witnessing the scene, and promises to conduct his business outside the house so as not to scare her again. It becomes apparent that Massimo genuinely loves her. As days pass, Massimo becomes more attached to Laura, to the point that she accompanies him everywhere he goes. But Laura intentionally provokes him by embarrassing him in front of his men and taking him shopping, forcing him to buy large quantities of dresses and shoes for her. One day, Massimo invites Laura to dinner, and confesses that he has loved her since the first day he saw her. He tells her he will always love her, no matter what she does, and asks her to help him be gentle with her, hoping she will fall in love with him too. Laura is happy with his words and begins to feel attracted to him. When she returns to her room, she finds her phone and laptop on the bed, realizing that Massimo is giving her the freedom to choose between staying with him or returning to her previous life. Laura decides to stay, calling her friends to tell them she's in Sicily and will stay for a long time because she's found a good job. The next day, she wakes up to find Massimo sleeping beside her. A few days later, they travel together to Rome, where he takes her to a nightclub. Laura tries to provoke him by dancing with another man, making Massimo angry. He attacks the man, hits him, and threatens everyone with his gun. The following day, Mario talks with Massimo, telling him that what he did last night because of Laura was wrong, and could have led to a war since the man he hit was the son of a major mafia boss. Mario advises him to let go of Laura and return to his ex-girlfriend, Anna. Massimo gets angry and threatens to kill anyone who comes near Laura. Laura overhears, intervenes, and apologizes to Massimo, but he gets angry and blames her. They argue on the deck until he accidentally pushes her into the water. He quickly jumps in to save her, bringing her to the room and staying beside her all night until she wakes up, finding him next to her. She moves closer, kisses him, and they start a relationship. Days pass as they happily spend time on the boat, living the best moments of their lives. One day, Massimo tells Laura they're going to a masquerade ball that evening. Unsure of what to wear, he brings in a famous designer to help her. That night, they go to the ball, dance, and enjoy themselves until Massimo's ex-girlfriend, Anna, appears, looking furious at Laura for taking her man. She warns Massimo in Italian that she will break his heart and kill Laura soon, then leaves. Laura asks Massimo about Anna and what she said. He explains that Anna was his ex-girlfriend, whom he left the day he saw Laura at the airport. Laura feels uneasy and asks to return home. Massimo tries to console her, even though she feels upset about Anna. He tells her to prepare for a trip to Poland the next day to visit her family, and though she is even more upset, she agrees. The following day, Laura heads to the airport with Domenico, one of Massimo's men. Domenico tries to assure her that Anna is in the past, and that Laura is now Massimo's future, but Laura feels sad about being apart from him. Suddenly, Domenico gets a call and has to step away from the car quickly, instructing Laura to travel alone to Poland, which she does. Upon arrival, Laura waits for Massimo for days in her apartment, but he doesn't show up, leaving her feeling hopeless and believing he's abandoned her. She goes to her best friend Olga, telling her about her love for an Italian man who has all the qualities she's ever wanted but left her suddenly. She breaks down crying, and Olga decides to help lift her spirits by taking her to a beauty salon, where Laura cuts and colors her hair. Then they head to a nightclub and dance until dawn. While dancing, Laura suddenly sees Martin, who looks heartbroken and admits that his life fell apart since she left. Laura angrily reminds him of his infidelity and leaves. Martin tries to follow and explain himself as she reaches her apartment door. He tries to enter with her, but she pushes him away and asks him to leave. Suddenly, Massimo appears, telling Martin to go. Martin leaves, and Laura seizes the moment to provoke Massimo by inviting Martin in, but he quickly backs off. Laura gets angry at Massimo and slaps him, calling him arrogant for ignoring her all this time. Massimo embraces her and apologizes, and she tells him she loves him. While they spend time together, Laura notices scars on Massimo's body and realizes he stayed away to protect her. She breaks down in tears, telling him she doesn't need 365 days to fall in love with him, because she already has and wants to be with him forever. Massimo is delighted by her words and asks her to repeat them. The next day, she wakes up to find a wedding ring on her finger, and he proposes to her, and she accepts. The two begin preparing for the wedding, and Massimo visits her family to formally ask for her hand. When they ask him about his job, he honestly replies that he's a mob boss, and her family laughs, thinking he's joking. The next day, Massimo requests that Laura doesn't invite any of her family to the wedding because Mafia leaders will be attending, and she agrees, on the condition that her best friend Olga can be there. Massimo agrees. While Massimo travels to finalize a deal, Laura heads to the airport to meet Olga, where she reveals she's pregnant. Though Massimo doesn't know yet, Olga scolds her for not telling him and urges her to share the news. Laura agrees, deciding to tell him as soon as he returns. The two friends go out shopping for a wedding dress, and along the way, Laura calls Massimo, telling him she's preparing a surprise for him. Meanwhile, Mario receives a call warning him that Laura's life is in danger. He tries to reach her to warn her, but she's preoccupied talking to Massimo. While driving through a tunnel, Laura's car gets into an accident, and she doesn't make it out. The police arrive and inform Massimo of the incident, leaving him shattered, imagining her in front of him, uncertain whether she's alive or not. The first part of the movie ends on this suspenseful note. If you want to find out what happens next, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our latest content.